Hello my darlings, and welcome to a video where I create a shrine to Hestia, the Greek goddess of the hearth, home, domesticity, family, and the sacred flame. While I craft this shrine, I want to share some of the myths and archetypes represented by this goddess. Let's do some magical crafting. Each month I create a new shrine and research a new deity to learn more about them, their roles, and sacred symbols. As I craft the shrine, I'll share with you what I learned about the deity, and when the shrine is complete, I'll be offering it in my shop so that a devotee of the goddess can own and display it on their altar or in their home. As I'm crafting this shrine to Hestia, I'll be adding colors and symbols to represent her. The warm orange and bright yellow color scheme deeply connects to Hestia's domains. These fiery colors represent her sacred, eternal flame that burned at the center of every home and temple in ancient Greece. The red hearth symbolizes the physical and spiritual center of domestic life that Hestia governed. I'm adding orange and gold rhinestones to capture the radiant, dancing quality of fire, both beautiful and essential for survival. The ornate gold decoration around the shrine reflects her honored position as the firstborn child of the Titans Kronos and Rhea, while the goddess statue, holding both a flame and a vase, represents her dual nature as keeper of both the sacred fire and the nourishing aspects of the home. Hestia's sacred symbols tell us so much about who she is. Fire and the hearth are her most important symbols, that eternal flame that represents continuity and transformation. This living fire was treated with such care, never allowed to go out except during special rituals where it would be ceremonially relit. The chaste tree branch is another symbol you'll often see with Hestia. It represents her choice to remain a virgin goddess. This plant, also called vitex, was believed to reduce desire and was used in her temples. The veil that Hestia often wears also represents modesty and virginity. The kettle or vase that she holds represents nourishment and abundance, all the good things that come from a well-loved kitchen and hearth. I love the animal associations that Hestia has. The pig represents domestic prosperity, not just having children, but having enough of everything that you need. People would often sacrifice pigs to honor her. And then there's the donkey, a humble and hard-working animal with a special connection to Hestia. There's actually a story about this. Once, at a feast of the gods, Hestia fell asleep. The lusty god Priapus tried to take advantage of her, but right at that moment, a donkey brayed so loudly it woke Hestia and alerted everyone else. After that, donkeys became sacred to her. They were given garlands and rest days during her festivals. Hestia is really unique among the Greek gods. Though she was one of the original Olympians, she later gave up her seat to Dionysus so she could tend to the hearth of Olympus. That says so much about who she is. She valued service and harmony more than power or prominence. While all the other gods were off having adventures and getting into trouble, Hestia stayed at the center, keeping things stable. The Greeks gave Hestia some beautiful titles that show how much they valued her. One of my favorites is Hestia First and Last. This speaks to her special position in both cosmic and everyday life. As the firstborn child of Kronos and Rhea, she was swallowed first by her father, and then was the last to be released when Zeus rescued his siblings. This made her both the eldest and in a way the youngest of her generation. The first and last idea also shows up in how people honored her. In Greek households and temples, Hestia received the first offering in any ritual and also the last one. They basically wrapped all of their worship in her energy, starting and ending with acknowledging the goddess of the hearth. She had other lovely titles too: Keeper of the Stores for how she watched over household resources, the Common Hearth for how she united communities, and simply She Who Is, acknowledging how fundamental she was to existence itself. Unlike many Greek deities, Hestia doesn't have a lot of dramatic myths about her. I actually think that reflects who she is. She's the quiet presence that makes everything else possible. She turned down marriage proposals from both Poseidon and Apollo, asking Zeus instead to let her remain independent. This wasn't just about staying a virgin. It was about belonging to herself and being available to everyone through her service. The hearth that Hestia watched over wasn't just for cooking. In ancient Greece, the hearth was truly the heart of the home, where family gathered, where guests were welcomed, where important family rituals happened. It's telling that the Greek word for hearth, Hestia, became the goddess's name. They were that connected. Every Greek city had a public hearth with Hestia's sacred flame burning all the time. This fire represented the life of the community itself. When people left to start a new settlement, they would carry fire from their home city's hearth to light the hearth of the new community, maintaining an unbroken connection between old and new. Though she might seem less exciting than gods of thunder or goddesses of love, Hestia's domain was absolutely essential. She transformed raw nature into culture through the taming of fire. Fire let people cook food, stay warm, make pottery, and work with metals. Hestia governed all of these transformative processes that made civilization possible. I find it fascinating that Hestia received the first portion of every sacrifice in Greek religion, even before Zeus. As a guardian of the sacrificial flame, she carried offerings upward through fire and smoke, connecting humans and gods. The concept of sacred hospitality was deeply tied to Hestia's realm. The hearth was where strangers were welcomed and fed. To harm a guest who had shared your fire was considered a terrible offense. Hestia helped create bonds between people beyond just family ties. Unlike gods associated with wild places, Hestia represents the most civilized aspects of human life. Her domain is the organized household, where resources are managed, generations connect, and everyone knows their role. A well-kept home under Hestia's care is a haven against the chaos that often threatened human security. Every home in ancient Greece had its hearth where daily offerings were made to her. Women especially honored her by tending the household fire and preparing food. But everyone recognized her importance. Even in temples dedicated to other gods, Hestia's flame burned, acknowledging her priority. I love how Hestia represents both centeredness and transition. She's the fixed point at the center of the home and community, but she also watches over important life passages. New brides would make offerings to her when leaving their father's hearth, and again when establishing their own. Babies were carried around the hearth in a ceremony welcoming them to the family. Her presence marked all the big transitions in life. A building becomes a home when the hearth is lit, when Hestia's presence is invited in. And she reminds us that sacred space isn't just found in temples, but in the ordinary corners of daily life where we apply care and attention. In our modern world, where central heating has replaced the hearth and family meals often happen on the go, Hestia reminds us to create sacred space within our homes. She invites us to think about, where is the center of your home? What brings your household together? How do you make a place truly yours? While the flashier deities might get more attention, Hestia's quiet presence teaches us that real power can come through steadiness and care rather than through drama or force. Her eternal flame represents the continuity we all need to sustain family and community life. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of Hestia. If you're interested in adding this shrine to your sacred space, you'll find it available in my shop. Until next time, may you find warmth, peace, and sacred centeredness in your own hearth and home.